Yeah, I think that's it. Did you fix it? Yeah, it was muted. Henry, a question?
I know I submitted some.
Will you submit questions?
Yeah.
Okay, so first question, let's see. How did you balance school and your business?
Sometimes I did not.
I would say the same.
I think when I first started, I used to tell the story of how I called the marshal. I asked the professor if he could connect us with anybody at Fairway to get our first sale from the barbecue sauce company. And so he talked to some other professors who got us a phone call with the Marshalltown Fairway manager. And I called him, and he told me that the only time he had was the next day at 9 o'clock. And so I skipped class to go sell to a manager. But it's definitely tough. It's just managing your time. And you know, you're gonna like, instead of going out Friday night, like you might have to, like I would drive to even drove Iowa to get product from 5 to 7 o'clock, and then I'd get home at 8, and then I might have to do a little bit of studying, and then I still might hang out with friends, but you have to sacrifice a little bit of your free time with your friends to be able to balance your work or your business and school. So, and my Saturday mornings, like I'd have to wake up early and drive to I one time drove to Washington, Iowa, so I had to leave at like 8 o'clock in the morning, drive there, get there at 10, demoed until like 1:32, got home at like 4 or something like that. So it's just making those sacrifices. Like instead of being able to sleep until 11 like you want to on Saturday, you can't. You got to work on your business to do class.
And I would say, for me, I used school to build my business. So like I started it my junior year, and for the next 4 semesters, every class I took, I used it as an opportunity to build my business. So I took classes specifically that I knew could provide me more resources and things that I didn't have currently, or help me learn something that I didn't currently know to build my company. So like my last semester of college, I specifically took like 2 entrepreneurship classes that I didn't have to take, but I knew would provide me the opportunity to build on what I was working on and, build my skill set and build new relationships and things like that. So, I mean, to me, that helped me balance the both because I was building my company while I was going to school.
Can I butt into the question, Megan?
Yeah, sure.
So maybe I'd love to hear more about the classes you took and what you learned in those entrepreneurship classes, since this is an entrepreneurship.
Okay, well, I went here, there was like one class, I think, for entrepreneurship. There was no major.
Did you take 310 though?
I think that was the one it was like my last semester of college that they had that class. And I will say, to be completely honest, unfortunately, I didn't have the greatest professor. She only lasted 1 semester, if that says anything. And it was the 1 semester I took. So I can't really say I experienced anything for entrepreneurship classes, but of course, like I had my professor, John Walker, who I always talk about, helped us tremendously with Deadeye at the beginning of his class, which is some like business.
Is that 250?
Yeah, business at 250. And that class, like as a whole, the class of course helped because you go through the process of kind of starting a business and kind of what it all entails. And then it was more for me just being able to talk with the professor after class, John, and he would sit down with us like once a week in his free time and talk about where we're at with the business, how he could help, and what we might need to do to grow the business more efficiently, because he'd gone through the process of starting a business, and so that was a huge benefit. As for specific classes, I was marketing, so a lot of the marketing classes always had some good. Like if it wasn't like tell me exactly what, it's never going to tell you exactly what you're doing, good ideas about my work. And a lot of marketing classes had some good stuff you could take into the real world, but
Yeah, I would agree.
I didn't have the entrepreneurship classes, unfortunately.
My last semester, I took 310, Management 310, which was a great class. And then I also took IE 430X, which is the entrepreneurship for
Engineering product development.
which Chip Bay teaches that class, and he's become one of my closest mentors. Since then, I spent every day in his office. He's got incredible real world experience. I would recommend that class to anybody who wants to become an entrepreneur because it just changes your perspective. It's not the business school, it's actually the engineering school. You can still take it as a business student, I think still.
And he's now teaching a course at the business college.
That's right, I was told that, yeah. So anyways, those are the two classes that I was able to take, and both of them were, I would say, very, played a huge role in like where I am today at my companies, and they helped a ton with actually developing me as a person and an entrepreneur. They just open your perspective. They open your mind to new things that you never would think of. You're in a class, specifically in Jim's class, you're with like 25 to 30 students usually that are all, it's pretty conversational. It doesn't really feel as much like you're being just lectured all the time. It's just a really good opportunity to ask questions and learn about business in a whole different perspective, especially from the business school. I mean, the teaching styles are completely different, and for better or for worse, but it was really impactful to my journey.
Can I build on that? So then outside of the classes, you also complemented your academic work with experiential entrepreneurship. So some of the things you did, pitch competitions, talk a little bit about those experiences. Did you win money? How did it help you? Did you make connections? Doing pitch competitions, doing site starters, things like that.
Yeah, totally. Michael can probably speak on this more than I can, because he's like the pitch competition king here at Iowa State. But the side starters and the pitch competitions, like that's funding that we would have never gotten to invest back in our companies. I mean, it's a huge leg ahead that, I mean, there's no strings attached there. I mean, you do the work and you get the money, and it's up to you what to do with it.
Yeah, for sure. We were, like I said, blessed to win that competition down in Florida, which we won $5,000, and they paid for us to go down there. So that was really nice. And then side starters, of course, provide you funding for your business. And then we did Startup Factory, which they didn't provide us funding, but they provide us office space and mentoring too. And they, so it was all, really like for the funding. I mean, that helped out tremendously. Like with Deadeye specifically, we used it a lot for R&D. So like we came out with a new flavor way back in the day. Actually came out with seasonings first, which we used the fundings to kind of, because you have to pay in our business, you have to pay for test batching when you have a new product for co-packing. And that can be extremely expensive, and usually the hurdle that more people can't get over when they want to start a new product, because you have to pay anywhere from $500 to $1,000 just to get your test batch. And then once you get your test batch, you'll have another couple grand in developing your nutritionals, your shelf life testing, your labels. Then you have to pay for your first round of labels, which is another couple $1,000. Then you got to pay for your first batch of product, which is another couple $1,000. And of course, when you sell to a grocery store or retail location, it's net 30, which means, but your co-packers are going to make you pay same day or net 10. So your cash is always behind. And so without funding like your side starters or the pitch competition, a lot of those products were able to launch very quickly. It would have taken a lot longer because we were trying to bootleg all of it. We weren't looking to get in any debt. And so it would have taken us probably twice the amount of time to actually get those products launched to market if we hadn't had the funding we had from side starters and the pitch competition. And then I think we used a lot of the side starters money we came out with like a mango flavored barbecue sauce.
My favorite.
The medium mango.
Absolutely.
We used that, so I was able to, I had the idea for the flavor. I was like, mango was kind of becoming more of it was becoming bigger and bigger, getting more and more popular. So I had an idea for it. And my favorite salsa was a mango salsa. So I was like, I want to make barbecue sauce. So we used the funding from side starters, and I hired a chef that I liked and was talented to help create this mango flavored barbecue sauce. So he gave it to me, I tried it, and then I said no, yes, gave it to my friends and family, went back to him, and then utilized that to go to a co-packer. But again, everything takes money, and unfortunately it does. And so we were able to utilize that for that funding. And then just being part of those programs to help you just it's hard to run a business by yourself, because in your mind, you could have the greatest idea, but in reality, it could be the dumbest idea. But you think in your mind it's great, and without the people at the round table, at Side Starters or at Startup Factory, you could have spent a year on a really dumb idea, and then they would have been, that devil's advocate, and then they would have made you think about why it was a bad idea, and they're like, oh yeah, you're right, that wasn't bad. So that was another really good thing I enjoyed about those programs, was just having that ability to talk to other entrepreneurs and staff about your business.
Yeah, I mean, I would tell any student who has a business idea just to do it, because you're not gonna have the resources provided to you that you do at Iowa State. You need, so take advantage of it while you're here.
Oh, yeah.
I have lots of questions, but I'll let you all ask.
No, go for it.
So what made you all, like, since you both started your businesses like during college, so like when you finished college, what made you want to continue pursuing your idea instead of like going to like the corporate world? That makes sense.
For me, it was passion.
Yeah.
I just knew what I was, like, I loved doing what I was doing. And so I knew I just wanted to continue doing it. I didn't want, nothing, because there's nothing wrong getting a corporate job, right? And be able to, and working on your business as like a side hustle. But I didn't want to do that. I wanted to have my full attention on my business. And so I was going to do whatever it took to do that. And I think not having the safety net for me of getting a corporate job was going to push me even further to really want to get that business to be successful. So that's why I didn't do it personally.
I would say the same thing. I think there's no better time to go all in on something than right when you graduate, for the reasons that he mentioned, but also, a lot of what we talked about just before this was we had a solid foundation set just from the experiences that we had here to be able to carry us forward into kind of going all in on it. And I knew that, if we were going to struggle or if we were going to, have some heartache, there are people we could ask for help around us, to help get us through it.
And don't get us wrong, like we obviously worked, like we had side jobs to pay for bills and stuff along the way, right? So instead of like, I kind of had to flip flop, like I spent, majority of my hours on my business. My side hustle was like bartending or, doing side jobs to get the cash flow to pay maybe for rent and stuff. I graduated and then I spent a year living in a closet with my buddy at an apartment in Ames paying $200 a month in rent. Just because I was like, I'm not getting a job, like I want to work on my business. But you want your business to grow as fast as possible. So every dime you make, you put right back in the business. And so it's just like little sacrifices like that. Is why, it's tough, but it's kind of what you have to do if you want it to grow quickly.
So you mentioned Deadeye BBQ for the last couple of years. How did you achieve that?
Sure. So, well, the first 3 to 4 years, it was all me. I had a business partner too. And we spent, I think the first 2 years, all I did was demo, which is basically getting samples out of grocery stores for like 3 to 4 hours at a time, Friday through Monday. So Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. So we found that if you have a really good product, there's so many choices on the shelf. It's hard for someone who's never tried or heard about it to just see it on the shelf and buy it. But if they tried it, they'd come back and buy it again and again and again. And so we just demoed the crap out of it for like the first 2 to 3 years, just every Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, we went to stores all across Iowa and just sampled product to people. And so that took a lot of groundwork. We started from one store in Marshalltown and then delivering it product ourselves to Des Moines, to the Des Moines area, doing fairways and Hy-Vee, still delivering ourselves. And then once we got to the point where our sales were hitting a certain mark, we found a distributor to actually sell a product for us. And we were blessed to get the Fairwood warehouse too, right off the bat. And so basically that kind of simplified the process. Whereas like now, like Hy-Vee wants to order, they just send me an email and then I send an email to my co-packer and then who's also our warehouse, and they put the order together and Hy-Vee picks up from them and sends it to their warehouse sends it to their grocery stores, and then their employees take it from their back room and put it on the shelf. So that's kind of where we've gotten to. Instead of us having to put it in our car, drive to a store, go to the back room, get checked in, walk to the shelf, put it on the shelf, walk out, which is how we started. We were able to, 3 years later, after working our butts off doing that, to have distributors and warehouses kind of take that process over for us. Now you pay for that, of course, But it's worth it. And that's kind of where, I mean, it took time. It took a lot of demos, took a lot of talking to managers, marketing, farmers market. And I still do the more farmers market because there's no better place like for your skin care thing. Like if you get the more farmers market, like I would do it because it's $50 for a Saturday, but you get 40,000 people that specifically go there to shop. And so you can sell just a ton of product, y'all, and basically free market.
Yeah, with that market research to feedback, right?
Oh, yeah. I used to sample product, ask them what the product, how they, and then get feedback and go back. And that's why I can go back to how the mango sauce grew up, was I launched that morning farmers market. I had people waiting in line. I ran out and I had to go back, and there were people would wait for me to come back with the sauce. But yeah, so it just took all that work, 3 years of just grinding. And then after that, it's basically, like I said, I get an email, and then I pass the email on, and they send it to them. And I still obviously have to go to stores and stay relevant with the stuff at the store level, but it's kind of got to the point where sometimes I don't even touch the product. But it didn't happen overnight. It took a lot of work to get there.
What would you say was one of the hardest decisions you've had to make in your businesses?
Well, I think dealing with partners, like business partners, is always a challenge. So just being strategic on, I've had to make tough decisions with business partners in the past. And so I'm not gonna get into detail, right? But I can just say that picking who you're gonna run a business with is extremely important. And it's gonna be hard because you have a lot of passion for your business, and they need to have just as much passion. And it can get to a point where you're doing all this work and it doesn't feel like you're getting anywhere with it. But you still believe in it, and they might not, and they might step away. But they still have that equity in your business, and now you have that whole problem of what do you do? And that can be a really hard conversation, a really hard situation to deal with. So I always recommend just preparing yourself before you start for that situation. So having something in your operating agreement or your whatever you set up with your LLC or whatever your business is, and you have it very detailed writing what happens if that situation ever comes to fruition. Because if you don't have that in there, it makes for an extremely difficult situation that is not fun. It causes you a lot of stress. So, yeah.
I would say the same thing, and then also realizing what we were doing wasn't working, so we needed to pivot and make a change. That's kind of a hard pill to swallow. But just staying, holding true, believing in what we were doing, and knew that something was going to come from it. So we probably pivoted twice, with Lokoly specifically. Every time realizing what we were doing wasn't working wasn't an easy thing to realize, but we knew we could pivot and do something else based on what we had already been doing.
It's gonna be one of my questions and comments about have you had to pivot and how and why, but also I think the entrepreneurial spirit behind you allowed you to navigate those pivots, right? I'm not gonna speak about that, but I think you both had to do that. And kind of goes back to when we do the pitch competitions and articulating what you do, how important that is, and why we push people to work on that, because you do have to change directions.
Right. Yeah. The business you start with usually is not going to end up being what it is. Like it'll change dramatically over the next year or two, and you have to be okay with that change. Nicholas always says I'm pretty stubborn, but there's things that I know are right, and there's sometimes where I'm just kind of like, okay, they might be correct in this situation.
To that point, though, you gotta have a really strong filter, because you're gonna have people telling you all the time, like, you gotta do this, or that's not the right way to do it, but you know your business better than anybody else, so.
That's the most difficult part, to be able to filter out the bull crap and then take like true what is like what you need to. That's like the most difficult thing. I can't tell you that people like, for example, at the farmers market, they just look at me and they're just like, man, it's just a tough business. I just don't know. I just don't know if this is possible. And I'm like, oh, well, I'm in 200 grocery stores right now. And they're like, Oh, okay. You know, people think they know a lot about your industry when in reality they don't. Like when I started a restaurant, I can't tell you how many people are like, oh man, those are impossible. They never make any money. You just can't do it. I'm like, so what do you do for a job? Oh, I'm a financial advisor. I'm like, so have you ever worked in a restaurant? No. Have you ever owned a restaurant? No. I'm like, okay, thanks. And that's the kind of bull crap they filter out because they have no idea what they're talking about. They heard it from a friend or they read an article, you know, that they saw on Facebook about how restaurants don't make any money. And so that's kind of that's the stuff. That's where I kind of get, okay, do I listen to this guy or not? And that's where I figure out, okay, whatever they have to say, I'm just gonna. You smile and you go, okay, but you're like, nah, I'm not listening to a single word this dumb is saying.
Hardest time to filter things out is right when you're starting to, so you don't have a lot of that experience under your belt. Like when I first started, I listened to everybody, and then I kind of forgot what I was even doing. But it took me a while to realize, like, I know this better than anybody else, so I don't need to listen to everybody that's telling me stuff.
That's all. Like I have mentors now in the business that I know, like, 'cause they made it and they know what they're talking about, that I'll go to for advice for stuff. So don't let anybody pull up, like in the drive-thru. You don't let anybody that pulls in the drive-thru try to tell me something about it. I don't even know who you are.
Going off of what you said earlier about business partners, how did you choose yours and what would you do differently?
Sure. So when I first started, I had a business partner that we just both wanted to start our own business. And we were both, it was his uncle's recipe. And so we had a lot of passion from the beginning, but for Charlotte's, where after I had that experience with that, I made sure I had like just everything in detailed writing. So like, you know, I even had in the beginning, like what everyone's responsibilities were, you know, I even at one point had how many hours you had to put in, which is hard to track, but just to have in there. And then what would happen if for some reason you didn't fulfill your responsibilities, like, okay, here either you lose percentage, you know, points, or it comes to a point where you can be kicked out. And then, so for Charlotte's, I had to get, I wanted a strategic partner to invest in the company. So I looked for somebody that would have the same passion for the business that I would, that could provide me funding for the short term and the long term. And someone that I could call if something happened, that they would show up, which was really important for me. I wasn't really looking for a silent investor. I didn't want someone just to give me some funding and then just say, okay, I'll call you once a month and see how everything's going. And so I would look for someone that would be involved and was also intelligent about the industry I was going into. You know, I even had offers from people to invest in Charlotte's that wanted to be silent partners, but they had no experience in the restaurant. They just believed in me, which is great, but they didn't have any industry knowledge. And those were investments I just passed on because I didn't want that. I wanted someone that if I had questions, because I'm 24 years old, so I don't know everything at all. So I wanted someone that had experience. Yeah, I want to have someone that experience in running a business and in my industry. So that's what I found. So that way, if I had a question like, oh shoot, like what do I do? They'd be like, oh, do this. And so I found a gentleman that has done that for me. It's been the best decision I've ever made. Put it this way, this man, if he had to charge an hourly rate for what he makes a year, it would be like $1,000 an hour. But I called him when my truck broke down and my generator wasn't working. And he left at 10 a.m. from his house where he was hanging out with a friend that came from like California, and he drove them both to the truck, fixed the generator, went home. Like to find an investor that will do that is like highly unlikely. But as a reason I picked him because I was like, I know this guy, like he had a passion for it. Like he had a passion for it. He wanted to see it succeed. He wanted to see it succeed. So he took time out of his day to do that, which he didn't have to. You know, if I had called anybody else, I'd be like, okay, we'll drive to a shop, pay a couple $100, fix it. So that's where I kind of pivoted when I found out, you know, I had issues in the past. You learn from those issues, and that's when I was like, okay, I want someone that can that's going to be going out of the way to help me out.
Yeah, Jennifer, generator failure happened on your opening day, didn't it?
No, my fryer broke down. You know,
Oh, that's
everything one fryer. That was horrendous.
Then they opened the restaurant, yeah.
Oh yeah, and then my first day in the something's always, no matter what, something's always gonna go wrong, right? I found this out. So with the food truck, our first day opening, our fryer went down. So we only had one fryer and we're frying chicken, okay? And so that wasn't good. And so we're opening the restaurant, everything's going extremely smooth and we're all like, okay, something has to go wrong, like something bound to go wrong. It just always does. And so we have a line wrapped around the street and it's like 7 o'clock. I'm like, I'm on the register, stuff's flying everywhere. All of a sudden, I hear fire. And I'm like, what? Fire! And our toaster is on fire, like flames ablazing. And so we had to pull the fire extinguisher out, put it out. I was like, I wasn't mad because I had gone through so much crap before. I was just like, there it is. Something happened. It's over. There it is. Our toaster caught on fire. But luckily, I had already bought another toaster, so we just switched them out. But there's something's always going to go wrong. Well, that's fine. But yeah, to go back, you just have to be strategic on who you pick. It's very important because you're stuck with you. It's hard. I mean, to get them out is extremely hard sometimes.
Yeah, deal with it up front and take the time to go through the process. It's been.
Having the right one, never start a business without like some kind of operating agreement or something.
Yeah,
That's the
I just
dumbest
went through something where basically part of a company that nothing was in writing, and then it came time to actually go through that process, like 4 or 5 months after we were all working on this. And like, I think 8 out of the 10 people ended up leaving the company, besides like the person that tried to form the team because nothing was right. So deal with that right.
So Nicholas, your business has started to focus on marketing, but what have you both learned about marketing in your business? Can you share about
He's the guru.
About marketing your business.
marketing a new business? Yeah.
It's invaluable. I mean, it's,
What's the secret?
there is no secret. You just got to do it. We didn't know how to market our business when we started. And then we started just trying and realized like we found some things that really worked for us and realized that, this is how we're going to do it. And because we got pretty good at it, other people started asking us to do it for them. Go ahead.
So building off of that, would you say that you learned more about like marketing and the logistics of it in the experience or in your degree?
Oh, no, nothing against the degree, but the degree is like a 1/100th of what actually the experience has provided. I mean, you can't be just going out and doing it. That is the best degree you can get. It's better. I mean, you should certainly go to school and get a degree, but like the best degree you can get is by just going and doing it. And we found like low cost ways to do it. You don't have to spend a bunch of money, especially nowadays. Marketing, you can do it pretty much for free, at least just trying to get started.
I'm paying you. You got to invest in it at some point.
But when you're just getting started, there's no reason you can't go out there and just learn to do it. There's so many free ways to do marketing today, and you can reach people easier than ever before.
Yeah. I would say like for me, like for at least for my branding, I'm just obsessed with kind of like simplicity. I hate busy like logos, and I want someone to look at it and just like understand it and have a good feeling looking at it. Like food trucks, you see like when I designed the food truck, a lot of food trucks are extremely busy. They have flames, food and pictures all over. And I just took a white truck and slapped my logo on it and put some cute little pictures of chickens on it. And I can't tell you how many compliments I had just because it's easier. Like it was just easier on the eyes for them to look at. They felt like it was clean. And the biggest thing that people had against food trucks is that they always think they're dirty. And so I kind of was able to go past that by just having a clean looking truck. But I was just always personally obsessed with like a simple welcoming logo was a big thing for me. Like Charlotte's Kitchen is named after my grandma Charlotte, but I also love the name just Charlotte because it has a good like welcoming ring to it. So that's kind of what personally just like my style for what it is. But it's also good. Like I hired Ross because he knows what he's talking. They're pretty good with their marketing.
Nicholas, you started by saying that you were story selling for these coffee roasters, and then they asked you to market for them. So what did they see in what you were doing was that one of your pivots? It's like, oh gosh, actually we can.
Yeah. We almost realized that we could tell their story better than they could. Like we could articulate it in a way that related to the people that we wanted to reach specifically for our customers. But then also that when we started doing it for them, they realized that we could almost relate to their customers in a way that they couldn't right now and find ways to do that and reach these people that they weren't already doing. So yeah, I don't know, once we started really focusing in on the storytelling aspect, we realized that's kind of what marketing is you're telling a story, you're telling the story of a brand, and you're doing it in a way that relates to the customer base that you're trying to reach. And you just build connections with these people, build community, and then at that point, you know, you're building your brand, which people buy brands.
So my question for you all is, who is your target market and like how do you reach them primarily?
So for Deadeye, like we've changed who when we first started out, we got in the mindset that our best target market would be like small, like, because, you know, we're in Iowa, hunters, you know, males between like, I think we were targeting like 40 to like 60. Really focused on like outdoorsy. And so we even tried, you know, we hired an influencer that had that demographic, and, you know, that didn't end up working out for us because we found out, well, a lot of the shoppers are ladies. And so we switched our branding and our target audience for Deadeye about 2 years ago, 1.5 years ago. Now we have a picture of an old lady on the front of her bottle, really simple logo, a little nicer. Anne Irene, yeah, Anne Irene's on there. We told them a story about Anne Irene because she's the one that came up with the barbecue sauce recipe. And a simple, clean looking logo, lighter colors, like at first. So to really target that 30, 50, you know, mid 50-year-old lady. And, you know, we switched the whole brand for that because when we first started, we had bullet holes in the bottle, and like there was like blood gushing up because, you know, we were targeting hunters like we thought about, and it didn't work. And so we had to transition. With that transition, we changed our branding to fix that. For Charlotte's Kitchen, I would really say, I mean, in the food industry, you see every age group. So we don't really specifically target a certain audience. I would say we try to be pretty broad, welcoming to everybody. And that's where, again, it's like that simplicity with the logo, more homey feel. We love families, so we do target families kind of distinctly, but like I get anywhere from families to like, we get a lot of high schoolers that come through our drive-through too. So there's no real specific audience that we target, I would say.
Yeah, for our coffee club, I mean, this isn't the answer for everybody, but because we're an online product, we find everybody through Facebook. So we spend money on Facebook advertising now. We didn't right away, we didn't have that, but our target audience, it took us a while to figure out who it really was. We thought it was like people who were super coffee connoisseurs, like they knew everything about coffee, and we realized that that's not who it was, just through the different advertising things. And the people that were actually signing up for our bot, we'd actually call them and ask them questions like, why do you like coffee? Like, why are you subscribing to us? People we didn't know, which that allowed us the opportunity to really realize who our target customer was. It only takes like 5 people to really find out who likes your product and why they like your product. You don't really, but once you can find those good 5 people, that's really all you need to kind of kickstart and move forward. So that's kind of how we really realized who our target audience was after 3 or 4 months of trying to find out who it actually was. We're also a 2-sided business, so on the other side, we serve coffee roasters too. I realized from that side of the table, I realized who our customers right away, just from what he does, because really we serve small businesses. We realized they're paying, they couldn't afford marketing. We were going to provide them a form of marketing, and in return, you know, share their product with people all around the country. So that was an easier route to figure out their pain points than it was like people who were actually buying our boxes. That took a lot longer. And then from our marketing business standpoint, I mean, everybody needs marketing. It's just kind of figuring out who you want to work with and, you know, what kind of value can you provide to them.
Great.
Where do you have fear when it comes to owning your own business, and how do you manage that?
Where do I have fear?
I think I don't know, you know, you fear every day, like, what am I doing?
I think you always fear failure. Like that's always your biggest fear, that your business is going to fail. But I've learned, like, who gives a crap if your business fails. Like you learn so much from failure. Like when I first started, I share this story now. I used to be scared to share this, but when Charlotte's Kitchen started, we were Belgian waffle cookies. So they're little cookies that we'd sell.
They were,
And well, let me, before you start bashing on my cookies, I thought it was this grand idea. Oh, I'm gonna sell these little Belgian waffle cookies. They're unique. I'm gonna go to the farmer's market and sell the crap out of them. Went to the farmer's market and turns out they're not that good. And it failed, like it totally failed. Like I had a huge line my first day at the farmer's market. And the second time I came back, there was no one. And that's when I knew, based on my experience from Deadeye, that, okay, this isn't gonna work, because when I had the opposite experience with Deadeye. I went to Deadeye, sold the first day at the farmer's market, we sold out. I came back the second time, sold out again. And I saw the same people come back to buy more, which meant I had something. Whereas in Charlotte, I knew the minute I opened up and I got to the end of the day, I was thinking, I'm like, something's wrong, because we had basically nobody show up and we didn't see anybody, any of the same people come back. And so you always fear failure, but you learn so much from it. So we pivoted big time. And that's when the fried chicken wars kind of started happening between Popeyes and Chick-fil-A. And I was like, let's ride that wave, and I bet we can do it better. And so we spent forever like finalizing the recipe for fried chicken and started sampling it out at a commercial kitchen. And once we had people coming back to buy more and talking to us about how good it was, then we knew we had something we could open a truck with. But so yeah, I think the biggest fear is always failure. Even with the brick board, you always fear failure. Like I have a slow day, I'm so stressed. I'm like, all right, what's wrong? What am I doing wrong? Like, why are there people here? But you gotta have to put that aside. Like, it's okay to fail. If your businesses fail, it's 100% okay. Do not be embarrassed about it. Like, who cares? It's like everyone experiences failure in their life. So don't be afraid to, like, if you start kind of my big model is just do it, like just try it. Like I started a barbecue sauce company, the most saturated food product in the whole entire country. Not because I wanted to start a barbecue sauce company, but because I wanted to start a business. And I just did it. And I worked my butt off to make it what it was, but it could have failed, and it should have failed more times than I could count. So just do it. If it fails, who cares? You'll start another business that'll be 10 times better. And if that fails, you'll start another business that's 10 times better than that business. And at some point you will make it, as long as you have like that passion and you learn from your mistakes. So
just keep moving. I mean, stop.
It's funny you bring up that, or because that's a conversation we had about how are you going to differentiate yourself? There's really good barbecue system. What do you come up with? A unique Iowa style.
yeah, Iowa style and simplifying the label again, kind of like with the food truck industry, with the barbecue sauce industry, we found out was that all the products are so busy. Like it's usually a bunch of guys that create a barbecue sauce and slap a random logo on their barbecue sauce bottle and then try to market to other guys. And we were kind of like, oh, that's not working for us. Let's change it up. Let's stick out a little bit, make it a little bit, market like it being an Iowa style barbecue sauce and simple and good. So we did that, and that's helped out tremendously.
It's a very great tasting product.
Yeah, I knew I had trouble because people were, there's so many labels on the shelf to look at. What's that barbecue? They do the snap thing. What's that barbecue sauce I really like? And they've had it in their house for like 6 months and they can't see it on the shelf. What is it? What is it? And so I put Aunt Irene on there. But first we put us on the bottle. And so people are like, oh, I know I had 2 people on it. Oh, there it is, easy to remember. And so then we put Aunt Irene, it's the same thing. Oh, it's the one with that older lady on the bottle. Because they might not remember your name, but they can remember that little distinct person on the bottle that no one else has. And now they remember, oh, okay, that's, or, you're talking with your friends. I can't remember the name of the barbecue sauce, but it has that old lady on the front. And you're the only one with an old lady on the front of your bottle. And so that was like the biggest thing we learned from, it's such a tough, saturated market. Every year I'm thinking, oh, there goes one fails. I'm like, the market's about to open up. Nope, 2 more pop up here. Like, great, Scott.
So both of you in your own way are sort of looking at the food business, and you have your coffee business, and you have your restaurant, your barbecue sauce. How did you guys go about getting industry experience? And did you do that like before, after, or during the start of your business?
So I had, for Deadeye, I had none, just did it. And for Charlotte's, I had none, I just did it too. I mean, I took smaller steps for Charlotte's though. Like well, I was bartending, which is not really the same at all, but I started at a commercial like I started with the farmer's market, which was small, really small startup, like the capital it took to start was really small. And then I did the commercial kitchen selling to a bar that the commercial kitchen was attached to, which is basically a free way to sample your product without hurting your brand, because they didn't know who was serving the food. And then, so that kind of got me more industry experience. And then when I opened the food, I'd never worked on a food truck my entire life. It was the same thing. I was like, just do it. You'll learn the hard way. Like my fryer broke down. I have, and then for the restaurant, I never worked in a restaurant. I just did it. So I learned as I went.
Yeah.
You have to learn really quick, but
The only experience I had was honestly just from the different experiences of barbecue sauce and restaurants. The only food experience I had. The reason we got into coffee was because when I was locally first started and I was trying to really figure out what it even was, I had an experience with a coffee roaster actually here on campus. Then I asked him for the opportunity to go visit his roastery about 2 hours to the east. And I spent a whole day with him where he kind of just talked to me about like his process and everything that goes into roasting that coffee and his business and how it ties into the community. And that one experience was everything I needed to kind of give me the idea of what we're doing today. That's the only experience I had. You don't necessarily need experience, you just got to do it, and that's how you get the experience.
this experience would have.
Probably would have helped,
It would help, but you learn. You gotta be able to learn quickly.
It's kind of the engineering mindset. You can't know everything before you do it. It can't be perfect before you do it, right?
Yeah, I never run a drive-through in my entire life. Never been a part of the drive-through. And I just opened, I was like, it can't be that hard. It's opened up.
So can we talk about parents and family support? As a student entrepreneur, it's cool for a parent to see their kids doing that, and then it changes when you graduate. So you obviously have supportive parents, have met your parents, but talk a little bit about what parents think, and you all can join this conversation about their kids becoming entrepreneurs.
I think we're fortunate to have support of our parents. I don't think they understand all the time what we're doing, but they support us, and and I know a lot of people and business partners that I've had in the past whose parents are like questioning what they're doing. But at the end of the day, you have to believe in what you're doing. You just got to move forward and stick with it.
Yeah, we've been blessed with very supportive friends and family for sure. I mean, they at times, I'm sure they thought we were like crazy. We were also blessed, like our grandpa on my mom's side started his own business, never went to college, started out taking photographs for his local high school right after he graduated high school, and grew that into school photography business that had all the schools west of Des Moines and east of Omaha in Iowa. And so my mom ended up helping to run that business. And before he sold it to Light Touch, which is a nationwide.
I didn't realize that was your grandfather started that.
Yeah, Noble Photography. Noble, so he started that. And so my mom, I think, understood more, a little bit about it. It's like my grandpa had done it. And then my dad, who's always corporate pride, I think he thought we were crazy, but he was always supportive too. So it definitely been a lot easier for us, I would say, to have that. Because I will say this, they never once told us we shouldn't do it.
Yeah.
They ask you questions, which is important. Like, are you sure you can do this? Have you thought about getting a job? They make you think about that, which is important. But I would say they never once were like, you should stop.
Yeah. And they support you even when when they know what you're doing is probably not the right way to do it. They still support you. They're there. They got your back. Yeah.
But again, you have to be able to filter. If you have parents that have never had started a business or whatever, and are just really in love with the corporate life, and they tell you to do it, well, just filter that bull crap, just filter it out, because they've never done it before. They understand. They might only read the bad stuff.
Yeah, be careful which family and friends you take business advice from, because it can certainly play an impact on what you're doing.
That's good.
I don't know if any of the panelists have comments about parental support or lack of support for business ventures.
I have like a very minimal amount, but I have 3 older siblings, and because of that, that I'm the younger of them, and they like to lecture me all the time about how entrepreneurship works, and none of them have ever started a business.
Yeah, exactly. That's the crap I filter out. You
So I know
smile
exactly.
away.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about when you say that. That's exactly what I do. I just smile and nod. I'm like, oh, thanks. I didn't think about that.
Yeah. I mean, they're just doing it out of love, obviously, because they know how, I'm sure they've heard about how hard it is, but they've never experienced it.
So what's next? What are the next big goals that you're shooting for in your businesses?
Oh, man, I want to have like, our goal is to open up a second location in 2022 for Charlotte's. And then in like 5 years, we're gonna have 5 locations, so 5. That's the goal for Charlotte's Kitchen, is to grow up.
And did I?
And then at this point, I would love, I'm in talks and hopefully be selling Deadeye. So just, I'm still like it, but it's just like, it's hard to balance both. Like you can definitely see Deadeye taking a step back when I have the majority of my focus on Charlotte's. And so I kind of realized that at that point, I'm probably best if I just focus on one. Right.
With our marketing company, we've kind of niched in on a market. We've got a goal to get a certain amount of clients within this industry by the end of this year. And then with the coffee club, I mean, it's a grind every day. The goal is just to get that to a profitability standpoint, and hope to see a future with it. You know, we're still working to find that.
What do you have to say to future entrepreneurs? Current, future, sort of.
Do it. Just do it. Yeah, I mean, I agree.
It's not going to
There's
be
no better
easy.
time, but just do it.
Don't fear failure, but you got to learn. You'll learn. You need to learn from it,
And ask for help. Don't be afraid to ask for help.
from the right people. Okay, that's very important. Like I said, be able to learn how to filter out. That's the toughest part. Like you'll see too. Like even when we went to like CEO, we had like a little stand, and I can't tell you how many people came by. I'm just like, man, this is just, it's a tough industry. I just don't know. I've seen a lot of people try to do it. They haven't done it. And they're like, okay, thanks. What do you do? Oh, I'm a professor at, okay. Well, I appreciate your input, sir. So that I would say is the biggest thing. Just learn what to filter in and out. And then, yeah, you just have to do it and learn from your failures, and you will fail. I can guarantee you, you will fail at something. And you'll probably make some of the dumbest I have made. I've wasted, Nicholas knows, I have wasted more money than I can count. Not like waste, but because I learned from it, but like spent money on something and found out it was a horrible decision. And so just learning from that, it's helped me save a ton and grow Charlotte's way quicker because I've learned from those failures. You will learn the hard way.
Yeah.
But don't be afraid of it. Don't quit.
Believe in yourself.
Don't be an entrepreneur just because you failed at something.
Make decisions confidently, even if they're bad decisions after you look back on them. That's the best way to learn.
Biggest win or proud moment in each of your entrepreneurial careers?
I think so. Well, one, getting into the warehouse at Hy-Vee was huge for us. That was a big win. I would say my first sale, I sold 20. So I went to Marshalltown Fairway. I sold 1 case of barbecue sauce. I was ecstatic. And then we went to Ankeny Fairway, and he was like, we get done pitching our like book-long pitch. And he was like, all right, how many cases you got in your car? And we're like, we got 20 cases of barbecue stuff in our car. Like I was sitting on cases to go into the store. He's like, all right, I will take all 20. And I was sitting there like, I'm good friends with the manager now. He's like, dude, I could totally tell you were ecstatic. You want to try to act professional? And here you are, like 19 years old. You're like, oh, thank you. And I jumped up, man. And then for Charlotte, I think it was the biggest thing, and obviously big relief was when we opened the brick and mortar that first day. And we had a line wrapped around like probably 40 cars deep. I mean, he was there, he was taking videos. It was just a really deep line. I'm like, I did something right. Like, yes, like, here we go. You got to capitalize on that, of course, like making sure you're still serving the best possible food and product. But that was a big one, just knowing. And then, another big one too, like the little wins is like, I see there's this old gentleman, elderly gentleman, he's probably 70, comes 4 times a week, gets a fried Thai chicken sandwich, side of Brussels sprouts, and a Diet Pepsi 4 times a week. Wow. And every week, his name's Glenn. And it's just, when you have people like that, you have something special. He's coming back that often to eat. And And so that's kind of like one of those little wins that always make, when I see them, it always makes me feel good. Like I'm still doing something right. It's okay, we came back. So,
Yeah, I'd say our biggest win, or my biggest win, is when we landed our first client from our marketing company outside of the coffee industry, because it was with somebody that I had worked for the same company for 6 or 7 years, through high school and college, thinking that the relationships that I was building I was gonna end up working for one of the people that I had met after the fact. It was at a country club. But what actually happened was that country club has now become our biggest client. So that was our biggest win. And we realized that that's kind of an industry that we want to tap more into. As now we have other country clubs calling us to do work because they're seeing that what we're doing are the ones that we're doing right now. So that's provided us a lot of momentum and some opportunities that I never realized were actually going to happen until it kind of came to life.
What do you think about the university focusing on entrepreneurship and innovation? You've seen
great.
this whole showcase and everything.
This building is unreal. I
It
wish I
is
had
incredible.
this. Oh,
Yeah.
certain, like, all I had was little Jardine, one of those little tiny booths in the window. It was terrible. And this, I was like, if I had this, oh my gosh, it would have been amazing. Yeah, it's awesome.
I think it's awesome.
It's great.
Jardine is now double in size, so.
It has it too? Oh, that's great.
You should go to our.
Yeah, because when I was there, I was just like still in this like little booth, like, that's the only place you do, but there was no office for students to do any of their business work. Like, I had to like either do it in my apartment or do it on like a booth in Jardine with like 40 other students around you also talking and doing stuff. So I think it's amazing because there was no like inclusive, once you did Sci Starters or Startup Pack, there was nowhere anywhere on campus that was.
Sci Starters now has space on this.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think it's amazing. Make it a lot easier to start a business, to manage a business. I should say manage a business because it's tough to manage a business when you have 3 roommates in college who aren't focused on running, they're ready to have fun on a Friday night. And then you try to go to, there's nowhere else on campus you could have gone. So
I see a lot of businesses starting up here next couple of years with the focus that's happening and the resources that are starting to be provided. And I think it's awesome. I actually have a lot of alumni just from Sci Starters that are like passionate about helping me succeed. They don't even know who I am. So I just got happening even more, especially with everything that's going on. So
yeah, because I didn't really meet any entrepreneurs until I had gotten into Sci Starters and started back. Because there's nowhere for you to meet. Like there wasn't even entrepreneurship. There was that one class.
Yeah.
And I don't think there was only like a couple of us in that class that actually were interested in starting a business. They were just taking the class. But so that's, I think the best part is the networking you're going to get.
yeah, exactly.
Walk in a room knowing everyone's here is passionate about entrepreneurship. Kind of felt on your own back in the day a little bit until you got a part of the program.
Awesome.
9:30 we're supposed to end.
Yeah, we're at 9:30. So thank you all for joining us. This
Thank
was
you.
a great conversation.
Yes, it was fun.
Great to see you both.
Yes.
Yes, Judy eyes.
The video looks like purple.
I don't know why that is. It looks red in the camera. Is there some kind of screen cover on this? No, it doesn't look like it. I honestly do not know.
I'll see what it looks like through.
Oh, it's purple. We might, it might color balance a little bit if we lowered the blinds, but then we have a little bit less light.
Yeah, we can try that.
Well, coffee, there's some. Instead, brother, Lokoly.
That coffee is very good.
Have more, there is plenty.
Did you turn out?
That help anything?
Not very good. It's gonna be 3 people.
Well, it did not help.
No, it didn't. I think it turned a lot of people away.
I see what you're saying, because I am getting a guide on this one.
Getting away.
A guide about the,
I hope our Wi-Fi holds in here.
Oh, yeah, this one is not.
This room has got very unstable internet.
so we've got the connection, we can see you all, so.
Can you hear us? Is a microphone
Uh,
trying to avoid the same thing as last time?
Alex, do
Let
it.
me go out in the hall to make sure that I'm not.
Want me to test it? Hello. Testing. Check mic. Get more on the mic. Oh, early.
But I can hear you guys though. so-
Maybe it's through here, but they're picking it up.
I don't know if that has an on-off. It's kind of just
Because I was not.
smooth all
Yeah, but I
around.
can hear you guys.
And if you're having internet issues,
I
you could
am.
Ethernet.
Right.
Just have to watch you guys a Cat 6 cable.
I didn't know that.
Okay, so
Testing.
So like when I do my Thursday morning class at 9:30, it's good. By 10:30, it just goes down all the time.
Yeah.
And my
check one.
computer won't use the Ethernet. I don't have an Ethernet cable. This one does.
Yeah, I can go grab
That's right, because you did that for me one day, but no.
Mhm.
Yeah,
this is-
we might have one in the next one, actually. We might have. Ooh, let's see.
People going with it.
Right here?
no, wait, stand there again.
That's where it looked best when I looked in the camera.
Yeah, this is dead center where the mic is.
I'm here, you need to go,
Okay, I'm seeing him.
step that way for a second. No, the other way.
Yeah.
Oh.
There, I'm catching you,
No,
but
no,
now is she too far off? No, they're not.
There's the black and white tracks that threw me, sorry. I'm like, wait a minute.
So she needs to move.
I'm not behind the same guy. I'm not. Yeah, perfect.
All right, I think that one.
Well,
If you center this.
is somebody gonna trip on it?
Yes.
Yes. More.
Yes, they will.
If you move the computer though, then we can.
Tape it down.
You have to take.
Well, they're not gonna be one, right, but they just have to walk over and take that. We can try that and see if that helps.
So where does it make the most sense for judges to sit based on the camera? Over
You
there, over
You want
here?
the back of the judge's head? Or not?
Oh, are you guys talking to me? I'm sorry.
Kevin said, yeah, where do you want the judge to sit?
That's up to you, whether you want judges in camera view or just, we do have the second mic right here, so as close to the mic as possible for pickup.
Can we move the mic?
Um,
I just feel like it would be kind of awkward for the judge to be in the very back of the room.
yeah, that is, we got some room here.
But we've got the.
I'd say there.
Can we put in?
Yeah, Sam, maybe we put the timer here and the judge more towards the middle. Unless, is this seat gonna have the back of their head showing?
It's okay if we have, see a little bit of the judge, then it's not like the voice of the
Right.
voice.
That's what I was wondering, if
So
you
maybe
had
judge here
a
actually.
shot of the.
Yeah, that might work.
Kevin, why don't you sit here and see what it looks like?
Thanks for being our guinea pig.
Our stand-in judge. I don't think that was bad.
Jack, check that.
Maybe, maybe we should put it behind, so that they can. get it out, like,
Kevin, would you say that again?
Jack, check, check. Test, test, test.
Yeah. That might be that.
Test.
That's good. That's great. Perfect. Awesome. All right. Well, it
All right,
is.
9:59, so your time to shine with your intro. So do you want to stand up here so that we kind of do a camera view? When you're doing it, you can take off your mask if you're comfortable. We will also, as long as you're comfortable, we'll help pictures the same.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you have a list of students?
Yes, Sam has one and he has.
I don't need it.
Uh,
Do I need to call them up though?
Dean's going to the whole time.
Okay, I don't need to do anything. I'm good. You know. Do I need to do anything then?
Not really, but if you, there's a list in case you need it. Okay, thank you so much. Oh, yeah. Go ahead and start.
I can be your audience. See if somebody talks to us.
Q&A.
This is, you get to feature the College of Ag Entrepreneurship Program and all the things you do. It's great.
Let's get started.
I'll wait for their cue.
Okay, you're good to go.
All right, good morning. My name is Kevin Kimley. I am Director of the Agricultural Entrepreneurship Initiative and the Ambassador Chair of Agricultural Entrepreneurship. I've served in that role for almost 12 years now. And so the Agricultural Entrepreneurship Initiative dates to 2005 and 6. Some alumni of Iowa State University, Roger and Connie Underwood, gave a gift to the College of Agriculture and Life Sciences to start an entrepreneurship program. Gave a lot of latitude for what would happen. So it preceded me by a few years. I joined in 2009 with the program. So there's a number of ways that students and others can engage in activities of the Agricultural Entrepreneurship Initiative. So we teach classes that I teach in particular, Economics 234, Small Business Management. It's a case study based course where students dive into one case per week into the decisions and dilemmas that face small business owners and entrepreneurs. Puts them in the shoes of those small business owners and entrepreneurs and provides tools and theories and ideas for how to approach solving problems and making correct decisions. Economics 334, Entrepreneurship and Agriculture, is a class where students explore opportunities, how to evaluate opportunities, how to identify opportunities that they care about, learn a little bit more about themselves, and then partway through the semester, they develop 2 or 3 ideas for new businesses or new farms. They choose one of those that is their favorite and develop a business plan. And there's no final exam in the class. Rather, they pitch their idea to panelists for money, actually. There's some prizes that are pitched as part of that. We also do travel courses that are project-based. So for example, this semester, we did a domestic rather than international travel course by necessity, since we couldn't travel internationally. And so we have 12 students that are working on what we call a farm to fork project. And so they're analyzing direct-to-consumer farm businesses and businesses that create enabling technologies to enable new forms of interaction between consumers and agricultural producers. Our trip was in January and we managed our way on a bus through Kansas, Oklahoma, and Texas, and had a nice time. We met some really interesting people. So that's the classroom part of what we do. We do a lot of experiential activities. So we partner with other organizations on campus, like Papa John Center for Entrepreneurship. Judy, for how many years doing the Innovation Prize?
6 or 8.
6 or 7 years now. Have a really good time doing that. We offer a number of internships both during the academic year and during the summer. Oftentimes those internships are with early stage startup businesses, although occasionally we get projects that I would call innovation projects from larger, more established agricultural businesses, but they're interested in entrepreneurial-minded students engaging in those internships. Other experiential activities can range from, in a non-pandemic year at least, entrepreneurial roundtables where we bring in 5 or 6 entrepreneurs and just simply get together for dinner and rotate students around the room after dinner's over to meet with entrepreneurs. Occasionally we have entrepreneurs who are very happy to come to campus but do not want to present in front of a class. And so that's our opportunity to put them oftentimes in a format that they are more comfortable with. For students that are actually working on starting a business or farm, we have a student incubator program during the academic year called Student Incubator. Most of the students, but not all, are from the College of Agriculture and Life Sciences. And so Dave Krogh, our entrepreneur in residence, helps run that student incubator. And then we have a mentor in residence, Joe Riley. And so this semester, this year, I think all year, they meet Thursdays at 5 o'clock, and we provide various resources to the students that are in that program for them to develop their business or business idea. During the summer, we run an incubator program that's part-time called the Rural Entrepreneur Academy. So the idea of it is for a student that has another internship, if they can spend 5 to 15 hours per week working on their business idea, we provide some resources to do that. We get together once a week. I do virtually, and then we get together in mid-July or so, or at least we plan to at this point, for a retreat up at Lokoly in northern Iowa. We also hope to have at least one student, if not more than that, apply to the SciStarters program during the summer, the summer business incubator that the Pop John Center for Entrepreneurship runs. So those are some of the experiential programs that we have. The sort of beginning extracurricular program that we run during the academic year is called Changemaker Academy. So our economist in residence, Dr. Matt Clancy, runs that program. And so students don't have to know what a business idea is or even intend necessarily to be an entrepreneur, but we just ask them to designate an interest area. So we have 6 different interest areas that the student will designate as part of the Changemaker Academy. Do they have an interest in being a farmer entrepreneur, a technology entrepreneur, an engineer, inventor, designer sort of person, a community builder, a small business owner, and I'm going to forget the 6th. But we have about 60 to 80 students that are part of that program, and so we put together 1 or 2 events per month for students to participate in, and then arrange to have a mentor for each student that's in the Changemaker Academy who's aligned with their interest, and that's probably the most powerful part of the program as well. And then we do things sort of fulfilling the land grant mission to intersect with kind of the world outside of campus. And so we've occasionally done executive conferences, or each year in October, we do an event called the Unconference for Agricultural Entrepreneurship, where we gather up, this year virtually, but most years in person, investors and entrepreneurs and others interested in the kind of ecosystem for agricultural entrepreneurship from around the Midwest. The Agricultural Entrepreneurship Initiative also, about 5 years ago now, helped start a small fund called the Ag Startup Engine that invests in agricultural technology businesses. So the first fund that we did was sort of an experiment to see how it worked. And it worked pretty well. Our goal was to invest in 15 businesses, which is exactly what we did. And so we intended that fund to invest in entrepreneurs that come from 3 different places. The first is the student from Iowa State University who gets to graduation. They have an interesting agricultural technology idea. Maybe they even have a prototype or something like that, but oftentimes, because of the potential risk, they need a lot of time and a lot of funding. And so our thought was we could offer $25,000 to $50,000 in investment. Maybe we could bid a bit for that student's time compared to accepting a job. And indeed, those sort of students have been those that we've invested in. An example of that, Stephen Broxius, graduated in perhaps 2017, if I'm remembering correctly. An idea that he had created in Economics 334, Entrepreneurship in Agriculture, was for an online farmland transaction platform, ultimately known now as Farmland Finder. We put the first $25,000 into his business and then later invested $25,000 more. He's went on to raise $4 million of follow-on capital and employs a good number of people, and it's starting to do online transactions for agricultural land, which is pretty exciting. Our second pool of entrepreneurs that we wanted to invest in is our alumni network. So we've worked to build community in a lot of different ways. And so students who've taken our classes, participated in our programs, there's hardly a week goes by where I don't get a call from a former student asking a question about, can you connect me to an engineer or to a programmer or to a source of funds, or can you give me some feedback on an idea? Most of the time, my interaction with them is just that. I provide some feedback or whatever connections I can, and that's it. But occasionally there's an opportunity to actually put some money into it. And so that happens as well. Our first two investments with the fund, one was in a company called SmartAg by an alumni of Iowa State named Colin Hurd, who started one business when he was here on campus, sold that. SmartAg was a second company. And so we were the first $50,000 in SmartAg. That was the first investment for Ag Startup Engine. He went on to build autonomous tractor technology with SmartAg. Ultimately sold that in 2019 to Raven Technologies. And kind of a cool story. Raven lets him work part-time with me now at Ag Startup Engine and investing back in entrepreneurs. And then the third pool that we thought we might be able to invest in are entrepreneurs that would be attracted to our ecosystem here at Iowa State University in central Iowa that we might not meet otherwise. And that's happened as well. So one example is AutoMed, an automated livestock vaccination technology. The founder and CEO of that company is a gentleman named David Edwards. He's from Australia, actually. His wife's from Iran. He came in 2016 or 17 to the National Pork Expo back when we used to have those, and decided this would be a great place to have a headquarters for his business. And so he probably has more business outside of the United States than in the United States, which is really cool, but has his headquarters and is building a business right here. So anyway, that's an example of some of the things that we do with the Agricultural Entrepreneurship Initiative. Yeah.
Hey, just while we're waiting for them, a little background on your entrepreneurial background and how that applies to what you're teaching here.
Yeah, so my background is with agricultural technology businesses as well. When I graduated from Iowa State in 1992, I went to work for about 4 years for a company then called Pioneer Hybrid International, now part of Corteva, but I worked in roles in business development. In 1996, I started my first company, eMarkets. Back when the internet was new, which was a long time ago, the business was intended to create electronic commerce applications for agricultural businesses. And that's what we did. I stayed there until 2000, 2001. I'd hired a CEO to replace myself because, well, not to replace myself, but we thought we were going to go public, which we ultimately did not do. So I left eMarkets and started another company called Decision Commodities in the risk management space, and sold that to Growmark in 2008. Timing's everything in planning a rain dance. So Iowa State was looking for a new director for the Ag Entrepreneurship Initiative, and I came back there.
Okay, so I think Alex, I think we'll let you sit. So I'm just gonna pop in and give a background here. So Kevin Kimley is a wonderful partner and a great asset to Iowa State University when it comes to entrepreneurship. And so for the next hour, we have students that will come in and do an improv pitch. They were given a topic yesterday. The topic of the hour is create an innovative new product for pets. So Kevin Kinley will be our esteemed judge for the next several pitches for the next hour. And we'll pick a winner, and the winner will get $100. So normally we would have students come and pitch their own idea, get feedback, coaching. This would be a little bit different since they won't have their topic until yesterday. So it's pretty soon. We have, I think the first student will be coming in. So give us a pause here, and we're going to bring in, I think, Isaac next to pitch an innovative new pet product. And so Kevin, Sam.
Sam. Nice to meet you, Sam.
Nice to meet you. Speaking with the College of Business.
Okay, what is your major?
Marketing.
Senior isn't done in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Good for you.
But excited.
What's your plan?
Don't know. I just done my test this morning, a second interview though, for at policy works. It's all right. Policy works.
Okay, so Isaac, you get, and Sam's going to time you back here.
Okay.
You get 2 minutes, right?
Yep.
2 minutes to, yeah, and you may take your mask off 40%, yes. Whenever you're ready.
Hi, I'm Isaac Bradford. I'm a freshman here at Iowa State in ag engineering, and I'm here today to present to you my pet idea. And so, my pet idea is kind of related to my personal experience with my pet. And so, as a kid, we were never allowed to get like a dog or a cat or anything. The rule was whatever comes to the doorstep of the house is what you could have as a pet. So, a stray cat, no claws, starving, still a kitten, comes to our house, right? And so it can't really survive on its own. But we always want, once it becomes our cat, we always want to let it outside and see if it likes to run around. But we're always worried that maybe it won't be able to catch dinner that day or something, even though it gets fed at the house. So it tends to freak out when she goes outside. And so my idea is, how can we make it so that cats who are afraid of predators in their natural habitat being their house cats, right? So, and it's beneficial for cats to be able to go outside from studies that I've looked at. And the thing is, small mammals, like small dogs or cats, won't be able to enjoy the outside as much as a big dog can just run around the woods and just like come back right away. And there's dog parks, but cat parks are always inside. So how can we bring the outdoors to cats in an enclosed area? So I suggest enclosed cat parks in a way. So you could do outdoor cat parks that are enclosed so that the cats can roam free without the risk of predators or just de-stressing an outdoor area for cats. And you could also do kind of like a cat garden in home. Now this wouldn't obviously be as large, but that would be the idea, is bringing some of the outside to cats and small dogs, then help their health benefits and also a little bit less stress for you. So that's my idea with cat gardens and hopefully
Cat gardens. Thank you, Isaac. So my name's Kevin.
Hi, Kevin.
Just ask you a few questions. So what do you think might be some of the elements or features of cat garden?
Well, so I think it would have to entail like an enclosed area. It's not like a chain link fence because cats can tend to get through smaller things. So you'd have to make some type of high, tall wooden fence or some type of solid structure on the outside. And you could have a large area, but still small enough that you'd still be able to find your pet once you're, however long you were taking your pet there was up. Because I've seen dog parks and big dogs can't fit through like a 2-inch hole, right?
Sure.
But it's just a grassy area. So perhaps you can make another style of those for big dogs to be in the woods. If you weren't wanting to just go out in the woods with a big dog, which I don't know why you wouldn't, because that sounds fun. But I just know that from my experience of going outside with my cat, that it tends to stress her out. And she does not like a harness. So you can't really take her for a walk in the woods.
Doesn't like to be on a leash.
Yeah.
So who do you think your customers would be?
I mean, I feel like there's a lot of people that have parks in their neighborhood
And maybe they don't want their house cat to just be a house cat and be able to go outside with it, but they are cats. They're not really gonna be able to go outside unless you have like a farm cat, right? And a farm cat usually isn't a house cat, so. Those are probably my target customers, people that want to just take their pet somewhere where it's outside, but without the risk of losing the pet.
Yeah.
Right.
So you're an agricultural engineering student?
Yeah.
So what are some things you think you could apply from your education as an engineer to this idea?
Well, so if I was going on the in-home side, where like it's like a cat tree, but like kind of like an actual cat tree, not just like the plastic ones you see in the store. And you have a garden, and so cats are omnivores, and they do like to eat cat grass or types of different grasses. And so I could use soil technology in our agriculture to start growing cat grass, which we have had at home, but it tends to die out once a cat levels the ground and it only regrows so much. So that's something that I could use.
So you mentioned the possibility of it in the house.
Yeah, I was thinking more of like, so like if you have a balcony, right, you could put a screen on it. And you could have in the spring and summer months, you could have your patio be outside. Because unfortunately, even though cats do have fur, they don't necessarily do well in cold situations, usually warmer situations, even though they have fur coat, so.
Oh, they're just like us, they get used to.
Yeah.
Not having to put up with the cold.
Yeah, interesting, snowing today even.
Yes.
That was quite a surprise when I came outside, so.
Was this the first entrepreneurship related sort of activity, or have you done some other things?
So I applied for self-starters,
Okay,
so that's what, so we find out if I made it, right, so.
okay,
But yeah, I'm working on an aquaponics business as well, so.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to-
all right.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Isaac. Thank you for doing it.
Yeah, no problem.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, guys.